You know, when you look at the Colosseum today, it's easy to just see a beautiful ruin, right? But what if I told you this was way more than just a relic? It was one of the most ambitious projects ever. We're talking about a masterpiece of extreme engineering, but also an act of pure political genius. So, let's dig into how on earth this thing actually came to be.
This quote, this prophecy from way back in the 8th century, it just nails how iconic this building became. You see, it was never just an arena. It was a symbol for Rome itself, and really for the whole world that Rome controlled.
And the scale? It was just staggering. We're talking about 50,000 people. 50! To put that into perspective, that's the same size as a major modern sports stadium. Now think about this. They built that almost 2,000 years ago with absolutely no power tools. Mind-blowing.
Okay, so to really get our heads around how the Romans pulled this off, we've got to first understand the why. Because, the story of the Colosseum, it's not just about stone and arches. Oh no. It's about power, it's about propaganda, and it's definitely about politics.
So picture this. It's 69 AD. A new emperor, Vespasian, is in charge, and he's got a huge problem. His predecessor, the one and only Emperor Nero, and let's just say he was not popular. Rome had been devastated by fire, and what did Nero do? He built this gigantic, lavish private palace for himself right in the middle of the city. Vespasian desperately needed a brilliant move, something big to win back the people.
And Vespasian's solution? Well, it was a total stroke of political genius. He went to the very site of Nero's hated Golden Palace, drained the artificial lake Nero had built there, and announced he was building a massive public amphitheater. He was literally giving the land back to the people. It was the perfect move, erasing a symbol of tyranny and replacing it with the ultimate public gift.
All right, so the political will is there. Great. But now, what about the logistics? I mean, how do you actually build something this massive? It was a truly enormous undertaking, and it needed a completely revolutionary plan for materials, for manpower, for the whole shebang.
And what's just wild is how fast they did it. This colossal structure was built in roughly a single decade. A decade! It became a real family project for the new dynasty, the Flavians. Started by Vespasian, the father, and finished up by his two sons, Titus and Domitian.
The sheer amount of stuff they had to use it's just hard to wrap your head around. We're talking 100,000 cubic meters of travertine stone alone. The whole thing weighed over 500,000 tons. That's actually more than the Empire State Building. And get this, originally it was all covered in gleaming white marble and decorated with bronze statues. Imagine what that must have looked like. Okay, so you've got all these materials. Now how do you get them to the construction site? Well, that was an engineering project all on its own. The huge blocks of stone were quarried 17 kilometers away. Then they were floated down 2 different rivers, and then they were hauled on carts through the packed streets of Rome. It sounds like a logistical nightmare, right? But they handled it with absolute military precision. So, how did they take all those pieces and turn them into that? Well, the Romans didn't just throw muscle at the problem. Nope, they used some truly revolutionary engineering ideas that let them build bigger, faster, and stronger than anyone had ever dreamed of before. And at the very heart of that revolution was one simple, elegant shape, the arch. You could call it the Colosseum's secret weapon. See, the genius of the arch is how it takes all that crushing weight from above and pushes it outwards to the sides. This meant the Romans could build this towering structure that was also light and open, like a stone skeleton of unbelievable strength.
But here's the really clever part. They optimized everything. The work was divided up between 4 separate construction companies, all working simultaneously. And this wasn't built by slaves. This was a massive public works project led by a skilled workforce of professional engineers and masons. They had these brilliant design tricks, like making the walls thinner and lighter the higher they went, and even giving the whole thing a slight inward tilt for stability. It just shows their incredible genius for organization.
So it was a marvel of construction for sure, but it was also something else. It was a perfectly engineered machine built for one purpose: entertainment. Every single piece of it was designed to control huge crowds and make the show as spectacular as possible.
And that spectacle started before the show even began. Your seat, it was basically your social status made visible. The senators, they got the best seats, right down by the action. Above them, you had the wealthy citizens. Higher up still, the regular folks, the plebeians. And way up at the very top, in the nosebleed seats, were women and the poor.
The whole building was a perfect reflection of Roman society, all laid out for everyone to see.
The crowds, of course, they came for the show. But a huge part of the magic was the surprise factor. I mean, how did thousands of wild animals, gladiators, and these huge stage sets just appear on the arena floor, as if from nowhere?
Well, the answer was hidden right under their feet. It was a complex maze of tunnels and rooms right beneath the arena floor, and it was called the hypogeum.
Think of the hypogeum as the backstage, the engine room for the whole show. It was this incredible two-level network of tunnels. Down there, they had cages for thousands of animals, lions, bears, you name it. They had holding pens for the gladiators. And they had this amazing system of elevators and trapdoors. With a pull of a rope, they could suddenly hoist fighters, angry animals, and even entire pieces of scenery right up into the arena. It was a machine for creating illusions, and the crowds went absolutely wild for it.
So the games went on for centuries, but eventually the Western Roman Empire fell. The shows stopped, and the Colosseum, well, it entered a much quieter phase of its life.
For more than 1,000 years, the Colosseum basically became a giant free quarry for the city of Rome. People stripped it of everything. Its marble, its bronze statues, even the big stone blocks. They were all carted away and used to build new palaces, churches, and bridges all over the city.
And you can actually see the proof of this today. You see all those little holes dotting the outside walls? That's not just wear and tear. Those holes are from the Middle Ages. Workers would chisel in to pull out the valuable iron pins that held the huge stone blocks together. It weakened the building for sure, but that iron was precious for building a new Rome.
And that brings us right back to that prophecy we started with. Think about it. The Colosseum has been hit by earthquakes, damaged by fires, and neglected for centuries. It's been stripped of all its decoration, and yet it's still standing. It's transformed from a stage for brutal games into the ultimate symbol of Rome, the eternal city. So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? After everything it has survived, what does that say about the endurance of an idea? And maybe, what does it say about us?